Welcome back, casual gardeners. I am recording this inside my house, even though it's a beautiful sunny day outside, because I'm having an indoor gardening issue. In front of me is my tray of carnivorous plants. This is entirely Drosera or sundews. I've got my Cape sundews, I've got some Drosera spatulata or spoon sundews. And the reason they're featured in front of me right now is because I have whiteflies. Whiteflies afflict all of us inside and outside in the garden and even in the greenhouse. So this is something that is worth talking about. Just to get it out of the way, I've included this in the friends or foe video playlist, but clearly whiteflies are not our friends. They are a gardening foe. So whiteflies have 6 stages in their life cycle. They've got the egg stage. They've got 4 larval stages, or 4 different instars before they're an adult, and then they have the adult life stage. And of course the adults are able to fly. Older larvae and adults are the ones who will suck the sap of your plants and are therefore more vulnerable to chemical control methods. Whitefly will lay their eggs directly on the undersides of the leaves. When the eggs hatch, the larvae will also hang out on the undersides of the leaves. So it's mostly the adult life stage that we will see on our plants, but that may not be the most numerous life stage that's on our plants. They can go from egg to adult in about 3 weeks. So it's quite possible for a whitefly problem to become really big in a very short time. And that's actually what happened with me and my sundews. Whiteflies are members of order Hemiptera, or the true bugs. And true bugs are characterized by their straw-like sucking mouth parts, not butterflies. That's different. But it's more of a stabby thing. You rarely see butterflies stab things with their mouth parts. Another familiar true bug and pest in the garden is going to be aphids. All true bugs suck with those sucking mouth parts, but not all true bugs are bad. There are some true bugs that will actually suck bug blood or insect blood, and those are heroes in our gardens. Like a good example would be the assassin bug. Whiteflies and aphids are both sap suckers and therefore sworn enemies in the garden. Out in the garden, there are a lot of natural predators that can help keep whiteflies in check. And then also in the colder growing zones, we have winter kill, which is an absolute blessing when it comes to pests. Good examples of predators in the garden of whiteflies. You've got predatory mites. There are predatory insects that will go after whiteflies. I'm sure a ladybug or a ladybug larva isn't really going to raise a big fuss if it's going after a larval whitefly instead of an aphid. Also, you have parasitoid wasps. And those can also come in a little bit handy in the greenhouse. When whiteflies do get out of hand in the garden, it can sometimes be sufficient to just hose them off. If you do that, make sure you are getting the underside of the leaves, because that is where all of the eggs and the larvae are likely hanging out. The ones that you can see, the adults, aren't the biggest part of your problem at that point. So thoroughly hose them off. You can do that about once a week, and that will just avoid too much moisture on and around your leaves, leading to fungal issues. You can also use insecticides in the garden to control whiteflies, but keep in mind that this will also hurt their predators. There aren't any insecticides that are specific enough to just hit the whiteflies. So you'll also be killing your predatory mites, you'll also be killing your parasitoid wasps. And you can even wind up, if you missed a few of the larvae hiding on the undersides of those leaves, with an even bigger infestation because you've wiped out their predators and their competition, but they survived. In my climate, whiteflies outdoors rarely become a big enough issue to even notice them. I don't think I've ever noticed them in my garden, just inside my house. Now in the greenhouse, it may still be possible to use your hose to control whiteflies. You can also, in a greenhouse, provide a habitat, if your greenhouse is large enough, for parasitoid wasps. These are very small wasps, non-threatening wasps, that will lay their eggs on and in whiteflies and take care of them that way. So those will help keep the numbers down as part of an integrated pest management system. Sticky traps become much more popular in greenhouses and in our homes. You're going to want to use a bright yellow sticky trap. That yellow color does attract the flying adults. Sticky traps are only really effective on the adults. The larvae, which don't fly, probably aren't going to go there. You can buy sticky traps relatively affordably, or you can do your own sticky traps. It's not that hard. You're going to want to coat a piece of cardstock or cardboard that is bright yellow with, you can use petroleum jelly, for instance. That is going to be sufficient to stick the adult whiteflies and help control them. So if you are really into making your own stuff and reusing stuff at home, sticky traps might be a place you can do that. You're going to want, on average, a sticky trap for every couple of plants. Now, in our homes themselves, not in the greenhouse, you are, of course, not going to be able to use parasitoid wasps because your family will probably object. But you can still use sticky traps. And then also I've got my pinguicula. It's not the right color. So mostly my pinguicula catches fungus gnats, but it may catch some whiteflies. I haven't seen any whiteflies stuck on the leaves yet. For chemical control, on the organic side, you can go with insecticidal soaps. Some of them, I think, are still certified organic, and you can also use neem oil. As you use these, make sure of course, you are getting the undersides of the leaves. Insecticidal soaps and petroleum oils are only going to kill on contact. So you have to be really thorough with how you spray down your plant. And again, only do it about once a week. You're going to do multiple applications. With neem oil, you're still going to want to be careful to get full coverage. It's not going to treat the eggs. The eggs will need to hatch and become feeding larvae before you can actually see an effect. And so multiple applications of neem oil as well. If you're not growing organically in your home, that opens up the door to pyrethrins, permethrin, imidacloprid, and malathion. And regardless of what you're treating with, whether it's organic or synthetic, you might have to look forward to 5 to 7 weeks of approximately weekly treatments to really get through your whitefly issue in your home. So I have that to look forward to. For those of us who are growing carnivorous plants, there are a couple of ways that we can control whiteflies that aren't available to other people. The obvious one, first of all, is getting a pinguicula or butterwort plant. These are really cool carnivorous plants. This particular one is Pinguicula sp. var. Alfred Lowry, or whatever. The reason I chose this one is that it will tend to have mucilage production on the tops and the bottoms of its leaves, which means that there is nowhere on this plant that a whitefly could land where it won't be trapped and eaten. A lot of pinguiculas only have trap surface on the tops of their leaves, and if you're trying to control whitefly, that's not going to help because they like to lay their eggs on the bottoms of the leaves. So here's my Alfred Lowry. It is a lot bigger now, you'll notice, than it was in this video where I unboxed it. It looked so tiny in the pot. See, the pot's appropriate now. I told you so. Now, another method for controlling whiteflies on carnivorous plants is only going to work on sundews and other carnivorous plants that like it boggy. So if you have nepenthes, this won't control whiteflies on your nepenthes, but the thing about a bog is that sometimes it floods, which means that these plants have evolved to tolerate temporarily being submerged in water. You can drown your whiteflies. It won't drown the eggs, but it will drown all the other life stages that are on your carnivorous plant. I'm going to put it in there gently so I don't disturb too much of the substrate. I know how to bring the level up. We'll do multiples. Doesn't matter if they're hiding on the undersides of the leaves because there is no air for them to breathe anywhere, and they will suffocate. I'm just going to go ahead and nip off these flower stalks that are providing a place for them to escape the water. So this would be the carnivorous plant version of mechanically controlling whiteflies with your hose in the garden, except, of course, we're growing carnivorous plants inside our homes where our spouses and or roommates probably aren't going to be very happy with us if we start hosing stuff down. So this is a good alternative to doing that. The Drosera like this, as well as Venus flytraps and Sarracenia pitcher plants, can handle being submerged like this for a while. You don't want to go more than 10 or 15 minutes because you are going to start to hurt your plants at that point. But 10 to 15 minutes submerged in water is not going to harm them significantly, but it will do significant harm to any whiteflies that are on the plants or in the soil. I used distilled water for my submersion therapy, and if you do that, you should be fine. You may also choose to put just a little bit of insecticide in your distilled water solution that you're dipping them in, and that should be okay too. You're going to want to underdose if you do that so that you do not harm your plants. Thank you for joining me for this video. I hope that there was something in it that you found useful, and if not useful, at least interesting. Why don't you let me know in the comments what is your favorite treatment for whiteflies in your home, and how successful has it been for you? Probably successful since it's your favorite, right? Make sure you've subscribed to my channel and you hit that little notification bell so that you can see when I drop a new video. Things have gotten a little bit erratic. I'm going to blame seasonal affective disorder, but I'm going to try to be publishing a video a week. Stay tuned. Thank you for joining me in my garden and in my home. And I hope you have a wonderful time in your run.